Tennessee, their win total this year was going to be 8.5, 9.5, depending on which, Fanduel or what have you. Do you think if Merklinger ends up being the quarterback, they could be a bowl team? Like, I don't think he's anywhere near ready to be the starting quarterback in Tennessee because hardly any sophomore would be ready. Do they have to get a portal quarterback that can start, or could he be the guy? Where do they stand at the quarterback position?
It's a great question, man. When you lose your starting quarterback, and again, this is what I'm trying to reiterate this entire week. It's like, was Nico what he was hyped up to be last year? No, he was not. Was he horrible? No, he was not. What he was a guy with unbelievable talent that made a lot of throws to win you a couple big games. Alabama comes to mind. He was a part of a team. Was he the reason? No, but the defense and running game was. But he was the starting quarterback for your team that went to a college football playoff. Okay, started every game. What you're losing is a guy with unbelievable talent that has starting experience at this level. And I understand people are mad right now. People are saying, I'll let him walk. Like, I get all that. But that is a ginormous loss on April the 14th. It's a huge loss. So where do you go from here? It's $1 million question. You got Jake Merklinger, who's had a fantastic spring, even before the Nico situation took place. I did a practice report on all the ones that we could see, and there wasn't a day that Jake Merklinger's name wasn't mentioned. He's, changed some things mechanically. I think he's growing with some confidence. I think he's had a really good spring. Does that mean he's ready to step in and be the starting quarterback for a college football playoff contender? I'm with you. Probably not. But he is the leader in the clubhouse right now. He's the most experienced guy in terms of in the system. Not a whole lot of experience in games when you compare him to George McIntyre, who is an early enrollee, true freshman. And everything's spinning for him right now. Had a good orange and white game, but that was a glorified practice where you can't touch the quarterbacks. But everything's spinning for him. He's got good days and bad days, just like a young quarterback at this stage would be. Tennessee 100% has to go to the transfer portal to get a quarterback, simply because you have 2 scholarship quarterbacks on your roster. That's not good enough. But again, there's not Nico's in the portal. Nico is the only Nico in the portal. I mean, is there a sitting backup power 4 quarterback that doesn't be like, opportunity there? Let's maybe dip my toe in there and see if there's any interest. I think that's going to be the case. Several backup quarterbacks and everything, but it's going to be very hard for a sitting power 4 starting quarterback, for much less not even a college football playoff team, that would want to take that gamble on April the 16th when it opens. Because again, your end goal is to get to the league. You can make some money here and you can win some games, and college football is amazing, but your end goal is to get to the league. So why would you put yourself and take that big risk, especially if you're in a contract year? So we'll see what happens. Tennessee's going to get somebody from the transfer portal. Who will it be? I don't know. The hope and the prayer and what you want is you go get a guy that can come in and compete and make this a real great quarterback competition and come in and start. But at the bare minimum, you've just got to get a quarterback. So the win total, how this affects, and I'm going to have this show at some point this week. It's really interesting right now because Tennessee was at 9.5 per Fanduel before the Nico situation. Right now, it's at 8.5. Depending on who Tennessee gets from the portal, does that change? I don't know. We just have no way of knowing that right now. But to sit here and say that Tennessee didn't take a big hit for its chances in 2025, I mean, you're fooling yourself. Tennessee's going to have a good defense. Tennessee's going to have a good run game. I think the offensive line. Another thing, and I know you're trying to get out the door here, and I apologize.
You're fine.
Is there anybody else that follows? Wendell Moy came in here from Arizona. He's a Polynesian culture as well. Those 2 guys attended the same high school briefly, but they attended the same high school. Where's he at right now? He came here to play with Nico. Where's he at right now? I don't know. Mike Matthews, we know about the transfer portal saga, with him flirting with it back in December. Where's his head right now after all this? I don't know. So it's interesting to think about how the Nico situations affects the win-loss total in the college football playoff perspectives, just because we don't know. We'll have a better idea of how this roster is affected here in the coming weeks. But at the end of the day, Tennessee's still going to have a pretty salty defense. Tennessee's going to have a good run game. I think Tennessee's offensive line can be better. And at bare minimum, if you have a game manager, a Kerry Collins with the Tennessee Titans back in 2008, you can win you some games. Can you win the big ones? I don't know. You can win you some games, but it's going to be interesting to see kind of how all that unfolds. And more questions than answers right now, but certainly you're not lacking for entertainment if you're a college football fan. If you're a Tennessee fan, you're like, kind of worried right now, but it's certainly not lacking for entertainment.
Eric, can you just give everybody a backdrop, where they can find your work?
Yeah, every single day, Locked On Vols podcast on YouTube, pretty much wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, all that and more. I've tried to get out as much content over the past few days regarding the Nico Iamaleava situation. Thursday with the initial report from Pete Nakos at On3, to after he missed practice Friday morning, to Chris Lowe and Pete Thamel on Saturday morning, to what Josh Heupel said Saturday night, and all that. So kind of every stage of what's happened over the last 4 or 5 days, there should be an episode up there, the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at _Cainer. Interesting time for Tennessee. It's never dull here in Knoxville, but certainly when this story happens at the end of spring practice, there's a lot to talk about for sure, and we're going to do it all in the podcast.
Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate you coming on today. You can find the Portal Podcast all the same places at Eric Cain. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Odyssey, YouTube, and everywhere else. Please like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. This has been the Portal Podcast.